What's up, everybody? Dom here with RB, coming at you with another episode of Top of the List. On this one, we're talking Wonder Woman 1984, the much anticipated sequel to Wonder Woman, which came out back in 2017. And I think we should start out. I had to think about what I want to say here. I don't want to go away into spoilers too much because, guys, I do recommend that you go and watch this one for yourselves. Think about what your opinion is, but I mean, don't be pushed off by our opinion, or if you really don't feel like you want to watch this one or you want to know what we think before, hard to recommend this one, I think, for both of us. But first, I think we should start off with what we thought about the first film.
Yes.
And that will kind of lead us into why we think what we think about this one. Absolutely. So the first film for me was an easy 8.5. Maybe you can even convince me a 9.
Yeah, that's right where I'd fall, right there at about a 9 out of 10. I thought the first one was an excellent film. I thought Gal Gadot was fantastic, as was Chris Pine. Brilliant casting for both of them. Loved the story, loved the cinematography, both in Themyscira as well as in the battle sequences going on during World War I. I really like that we went with a World War I setting. That's something that we don't see often on film. A lot of films, center around World War II. Of course, 1917, notably a film last year that was World War I.
And not to mention that one of my main things I'm going to be bringing up in this one, guys, the counterpart to Wonder Woman in the MCU, this is DC, in the MCU, the counterpart to Wonder Woman, Captain America. Yes. And Captain America, the first Avenger, the first Captain America film, a World War II film, This one goes World War I.
Exactly.
And I think the first Wonder Woman was a better film than the first Captain America film.
Agreed 100%. Like I said, I think they went original with World War I, something we don't
see realistic.
And extremely realistic, yes. I did have some nitpicks with the first one. Wasn't crazy about our Ares. I think Ares is yes. Yeah. I thought Ares is one of the coolest, like in the cartoons and in the comics. One of the coolest villains. I didn't think they did him justice. But that said, I really love the first one. I mean, I gave the first one a 9 out of 10. I don't know if you're going to go 8.5 or 9. But either way, above a great film. The original Wonder Woman in 2017. Not the original, but the original from the DC Extended Universe.
And, we'll bring it more up as we talk about this one. But just to list off a few bright spots from the first Wonder Woman film. Themyscira, one of the best locations in any superhero movie.
Without a doubt.
Chris Pine and Gal Gadot, the play off of each other, fantastic. And the band of, counterparts they build, the 4 soldiers, each has a unique personality, each with an emotional connection, phenomenal. But like we said, third act where, Ares reveals his true identity, and it kind of explodes into this gigantic CGI-fueled battle at the end. Mm-hmm. And in recent news, when this film came out, our director, Patty Jenkins, has said that Warner Brothers forced her to have a gigantic battle scene at the end of the first Wonder Woman. She wanted to go with a more subtle, personal ending to the film, but the studios said, no, we need a big, gigantic battle film to go on par with the MCU films, which was a mistake in my opinion. And that's why it's not a 10, not a 9.5, it's 9 or 8.5.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So now let's go into why we think, without spoilers, Wonder Woman, first we're going to go spoilers, we're going to go non-spoiler, give our scores, then spoilers and specific reasons why. So Wonder Woman for both of us was a massive disappointment, guys. Unfortunately, I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 10, which is not bad. 4.5 is bad in our book. Mm-hmm. 5 is average. Nothing really stood out that much. I'm going to give it a 5.5, just slightly above average.
Okay. I'm going to give this film a 6.5 out of 10, slightly above good. I thought this film had, all the elements of an enjoyable, 1970s, 1980s, DC or Marvel superhero live action movie. So I enjoyed this film, don't get me wrong, but to put it at the level of an MCU film or a good DC Extended Universe film like, Aquaman or Wonder Woman, I could not, or Shazam, that's another great one. I could not put it at that level. So this film was, it was good. I could watch it. I could even watch it again if someone had not seen it and said, oh, let's just throw it on. But nothing above, nothing great. It was good.
And it's hard to talk about why we don't like this one without spoilers.
Yes.
You know, you have to go specifics for this one. You know, one of my favorite guys on YouTube that also does movie reviews, he did spoilers in his review as well, right at the start. He never does that. That's Chris Stuckman, my favorite guy on YouTube to watch reviews for. But yeah, so we got to talk spoilers. We got to go ahead. We gave our number scores, so you guys know what we think of the film just by, you know, our adjectives that we put with our scores. You know, mine's slightly above average. Ryan gives it a little bit higher, and maybe he'll explain why. But guys, if you haven't seen the film, check it out for yourself. I think that we can safely say that, and we want to know what you think because I think Caitlin, your girlfriend, she actually liked this one a lot. So, you know, maybe people can vary on this one. I'm not 100% sure, but did not satisfy the expectations of the first Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Safe to say that.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think without further ado, let's get into you know, our spoiler section here. So
spoilers.
Yep, pause it if you have not seen this yet. If not, stick around for us. Hear what we have to say, and then feel free to leave a comment on your thoughts. But let's start, I want to think, with a high point of the film.
Okay.
That opening sequence where we get young Diana competing with all the other Themyscirans. You know, they're all full-grown adults, and she's this probably, you know, 10-year-old girl, if that, competing in whatever this, you know, Themysciran tournament is.
And this is my reason why I give this such a low score. I was thinking about giving it a 6.5 like you, Ryan, just out of pity. But the biggest thing that I could say against this film is the first 20 minutes, I thought this was going to be the best DCEU film yet.
Without a doubt.
You know, with the Gladiator Arena, to even the mall sequence with the first where she's stopping the robbers.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the best film they've made so far.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's well, I guess we should start with this Gladiator sequence. The biggest vice for me is that this scene was action-packed, thrilling, exciting, and emotional. You know, she learns a lesson at the end that you can't take a shortcut.
Yep.
This lesson does not come back for the rest of the film.
Thank you. Yes, this was created for one reason and one reason only, I feel like, and that's to set forward the armor and, you know, the post-credit scene. Absolutely. To introduce, I forget her, it's not going to say.
It starts with an A.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'll look it up. You go ahead. But I agree. This sequence was not only did I love, like you said, the action, the emotion, but also you know, once again, we're back on Themyscira, where I would say some of the best scenes in the original Wonder Woman film from 2017 were. You know, so I was hoping we'd have more recalls to Themyscira because it's a gorgeous, incredible location.
And it looks great in 4K, man.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. Mochi.
Mochi liked this film, so she's disagreeing with me.
She's very upset with our scores right now. But yeah, so we get through this Themyscira sequence, and there's a big lesson learned. We get a returning cast, some awesome cinematography there. I thought it was going to be fantastic. We get to the mall sequence, and it feels like a Christopher Reeve Superman film at some points. You know, the way that she shot it, Patty Jenkins. It even feels, you know, a little bit like 1980s at the beginning, and that's why I was like, oh, she's going to go for a 1980s style of filmmaking.
Right, yes.
But it fades away after this
Without a doubt. This film, like we just mentioned in Soul, for those of you who watched our Soul review, this film had the ability to take advantage of being set in an awesome time period in 1984, and it just completely falls flat. I mean, I think when we look at, you know, we want to compare it to an MCU, we look at, you know, the film that took place in the 90s, and you and I disagreed with this, Captain Marvel. You thought it fell flat in, you know, taking advantage of that timeline. I would say that this one fell even flatter, being unable to take advantage of taking place in 1984. I mean, it's in the title, and I understand there's some literary allusions there to George Orwell's 1984. And we get that in the mall sequence where everyone's watching the TV, sort of similar to the screens in 1984, George Orwell's 1984. Yeah. But I totally agree that it fell flat there.
I think that Captain Marvel, now after seeing this, did a much better job. I'm even liking that film better. Now seeing, you know, another female-led film fail like this, I just think that it was a little disappointing, you know, that they didn't go all the way with the time period, except for the clothes they dress in and making a few jokes about the clothing. Yeah. That's it. And just chronologically speaking, we get these two action sequences at the front, Themyscira and the mall sequence. Yes. And then for the rest of the film, we get a total of 2 more action sequences. And this is my biggest sore point, guys. I'm going to compare it to the MCU because they're trying to make films like the MCU now. And, you know, of course, we're also trying to compare it to films that were in the MCU. But, you know, we're also trying to draw lines to other action films that... Sorry for the technical difficulties. Mochi was talking over us too much, so we had to put her in the other room, but we're all good now. So back to my comparison of what I was making. You know, we had Captain America, and then we had Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This is the film that would compare to Captain America, you know, the sequel to it. In Captain America and the Winter Soldier, we got one of the best action movies ever made. I mean, just thinking about Captain America's escape from Hydra gives me the chills. You know, the reveal of Hydra, you know, him fighting Bucky and the knives and the metal arm and him catching, that's one of the best action movies of all time. We get a total of 4 action sequences, and they're all extremely CGI heavy. It does not look real. They did not do well with the action sequences in this movie.
I agree. I agree very much. They did do well with the first 2 action sequences, as we just mentioned. You know, both of us were locked in, buckled up. The first, what is that, 30 minutes, 20 minutes of this film? Awesome. And then that was like all they wanted to give us in this film. I understand they wanted to go a little more, it seemed, lighthearted in the vein of an MCU film. But, you know, a lot of it fell flat because I felt like a lot of the comedy they played on, we've seen before. We've seen with Captain America, you know, coming out of freeze, that we saw with Trevor, right? Steve Trevor.
Steve Trevor.
You know, so I thought that was, you know, I thought that kind of fell flat to me. I also, you know, was very disappointed with the acting in this film, at least from our main characters. And those being, of course, Gal Gadot and Chris Pine. Personally, you know, we had 2 supporting actors who are our villains in the forms of Kristen Wiig and Pedro Pascal, who, to me, they were pleasantly surprising. I did not expect as great a performances by them. But from what we saw from Gal Gadot and Chris Pine in the first film, this second film, they both fell extremely, extremely flat to me.
And here's my problem. It's not necessarily that it's the actor's fault for me. It's that they had nothing to work with. Chris Pine is one of the best actors of our generation. He has so many great films out there. Hell or High Water, one of my favorite films ever. One of the best westerns, new westerns ever. He's fantastic in that. He just had nothing to work with in this film except to just, you know, bumble around in the 1980s because he's from the you know, 1920s. And as for Kristen Wiig and Pedro Pascal, they had some stuff to work with, except I think we should go into Kristen Wiig first. Her character arc, we have seen 1,000 times, specifically in superhero movies. Let me just point it out. Michelle Pfeiffer in Batman Returns. She is an underappreciated worker that turns out to turn into a villain because no one appreciates her. Jim Carrey as the Riddler. Poison Ivy. What's his name? Jamie Foxx as Electro. The list goes on, guys. Underappreciated person that, you know, is smarter than what they are thought of as their bosses, you know, not, you know, kind of awkward, clumsy, not necessarily attractive, becomes attractive by the end of the movie. It's been done 1,000 times. It's not Kristen Wiig's fault. It's the writing.
I agree. Now, here's where I'm just going to interject and give a big positive to Kristen Wiig. I have never seen Kristen Wiig in a serious film. She is a fantastic comical actress, and she plays a very similar role in, you know, the sort of awkward, bumbling, you know, underappreciated person. Usually it's in a comedy film. When she starts turning a little bit, I was curious to see if her character, if she could hold up in a serious role. And I thought she did an excellent job in her debut. You know, we talk about, you know, comedy actors going into serious roles. I think Adam Sandler did a fantastic job in Uncut Gems, sort of his first serious role. Another one that comes to mind, I don't know if you've seen Foxcatcher?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, with Steve Carell. Another guy who's known for comedy, who played a brilliant serious role. And I think Kristen Wiig pulled it off here as well. Granted, I see what you're saying. You know, it was a, you know, a silhouette of a supervillain that we've seen a million times. But to see her do it, I was pleasantly surprised.
Okay, and while we're on the subject of her character, can we talk about, she gets a few dark scenes, but let's talk about that scene where she turns into the cheetah as we know her from the comics. And what'd you think of the design when she's full cheetah?
It was a little stupid looking.
It was stupid.
Yeah.
Come on. And the worst part, once again, we're going to go into the action scenes, guys. Wonder Woman in this awesome, fantastically designed armor versus Cheetah. It is pitch black in that scene. You can't even see what's going on. That is action 101. You have to be able to see what's going on, and it's all CG. You can tell these two, Kristen Wiig and Gal Gadot, maybe they could do a few things, like actually, but you could tell they just made it dark so they could do as much CG as possible. And it's terrible. And it's supposed to be that climactic scene where
that scene definitely, for what should have been, like you said, the climactic scene. No, the climactic level action sequences were at the beginning of this film. The rest of this film, I mean, almost like a political thriller. I wouldn't even consider this an action film.
Which is what Captain America Winter Soldier tried.
But there is incredible action in Captain America Winter Soldier between these political scenes. This was just Pedro Pascal having the ability to rise to power. Now, granted, I thought he did really well in this film too.
He's a great actor, and he does great with what he has, but they use, once again, it's the writing for me in this one. The laziest trick in the book. Have an object that can do anything. Terrible.
And the wishing stone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what was that? We get no backstory on it. There's a black market jewelry store in a mall. Someone knows about it, tries to steal it. It gets shipped to the Smithsonian, and then he sees it and steals it because he knows about it. But there's no backstory to this at all. You know, we had.
He's been looking for it for a long time. That's all we get.
Yeah, we had this this awesome sequence in Themyscira that maybe we could find out about the wishing stone. But we don't. We don't at all. And we get, a few hints here or there. Oh, it was God created. This is the language of the gods. It was God created. But otherwise, what is this thing? And and then it's gone like that. He wishes that he can become it, fine. And that's it for the stone. It's not even brought up the rest of the film.
And I would have liked to see a little more explanation of why is he getting hurt by it more? Because, let's think about how to implement a wish great. Aladdin. The genie, he gives Aladdin the lamp, and the first thing he says, you get 3 wishes. You cannot wish for someone to fall in love with you. You cannot wish for someone to come back from the dead. That, as an audience, means, oh, wow, he's restricted to things. It's wishing, but there's restrictions, only 3. How is he going to work his way to use these 3 wishes? In this one, it's unlimited wishes, and
it's just 1 wish per person. But we don't even see, we see him starting to, get hurt by that. We don't see that with the stone. It would make sense if, like, every time someone wished something for the stone, it chipped or it started to degrade. We don't see that with the stone. I agree. It made no sense. It just was a great to, put a limit on what he could do.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think maybe one of the positives in this guy's character arc was his son, his relationship with his son. That kind of worked out, but it was kind of tacked on.
It wasn't touched on nearly enough. It was put in there just to give, Diana, to give Wonder Woman an ability to stop him.
Right.
That was it.
It was his weakness.
Yeah. And then we do get a big, reveal at the end. We see a little bit about his childhood. Pedro Pascal, he was abused and he was
late.
Exactly. Yes. This was so, this needed to be touched on early on in the film on why he wants to be this wealthy oil tycoon. It didn't really make sense. He was just some rich guy who, blew his investors' money.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about something I thought was a bright spot, or not even a bright spot, but just a cool moment. Flying in the invisible jet with Steve Trevor, I thought was cool. Finally, we get to see the invisible jet, but that's as far as it goes. It's like, okay, cool, great, that's it.
I found that very, very...
It's cheesy.
I'm not a fan of the invisible jet.
Me neither.
Not in the comics, not in the cartoons. I didn't think they needed to bring it in a Wonder Woman film, and they did bring it in a Wonder Woman film, and I was disappointed.
They bring in so many plot holes in this movie. How come she doesn't have the ability to make things invisible in Justice League, which takes place way in the future?
True.
How come she learns to fly in this one, but never flies in Justice League?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. It's just tacking on stuff to Wonder Woman. As if this film took place after the events of Justice League, or she was also in Superman versus Batman, right?
Yeah, and it's supposed to be this great emotional moment, like, when we see Spider-Man swinging through the street, how about, we just recently watched Spider-Man 2, how about when he finally gets his powers back, like in this movie, it's trying to be Spider-Man 2, when Spider-Man gets his powers back, and he's swinging through the city to go save Mary Jane, and then we get the most incredible action sequence in any superhero movie, the train sequence, of him versus Otto Octavius. it's so emotional. Like, I was tearing up. It's so fantastic. The city saves him. They're trying to pull it off in this movie. Her flying is just her swinging on lightning bolts. It's not emotional. It's stupid.
Can I also just put this out there about that sequence that just really upset me? Just sidebar.
Yeah.
Our pilot there, you know, Steve Trevor, not Travis. Steve Trevor is a World War I pilot. Why is he able to just get into a 1980s fighter jet and just, yep, I'm gonna fly it?
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
I thought the same thing. They give him a little thing, and he's like, "Oh, maybe this is the on switch." Nope. Oh, this is the on switch. Let's go.
He's able to do it. No problem.
Oh yeah, dude. I think that was a big miss. And sure, like, I mean, even then, like, her swing on the lightning bolts, it's a cool idea, but it looks terrible. The CG wasn't that great. It was like, I don't know. Like, I wouldn't. Here's the main thing for me, guys. And this is like a bigger topic on movies as it is right now. HBO Max is going to be airing a bunch of films that they would normally be airing in theaters. For me, I'm glad they put this one on HBO Max because I wouldn't want to pay to go see this one in theaters.
I'm going to meet you halfway there, though.
Okay.
I agree. I would have been frustrated walking out of a movie theater having paid $15 plus popcorn and, you know, whatever to go see this.
Yeah.
But that said, I think one of the major flaws of this film was that it wasn't seen on the big screen. Because like I said, I enjoyed this as a superhero film. Superhero films are great to go see, you know, if not in IMAX, just on the big screen. And IMAX, of course, with Dolby Atmos and whatnot. That would have been cool to see, you know. But yes, I hear what you're saying. I would have been upset that I watched this. That being said, I was more frustrated because I had to watch it on, you know, a traditional home format, albeit a 55-inch TV, but still, you know, it wasn't the same.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the film looks great in 4K. It's really clean and everything. But here's the fact of the matter. A lot of people don't have great TVs like you and me. You know, you and me have brand new 4K TVs. A lot of people just have regular TVs like you had before, and they're not going to be able to appreciate it like we did.
Right, yeah.
Which, you know, brings us as close as we can to the theater because we're watching in 4K like in the theater.
Yes.
But, you know, a lot of people won't be able to experience it that way. And, you know, the CG is just going to look even worse on a lower level TV.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think, is there anything else you want to touch on here?
I mean, like I said, you know, the positive takeaways of this film for me, Kristen Wiig pulling off a serious-ish role.
Yeah.
Pedro Pascal, I really enjoyed
Great actor.
him going, you know, sort of descending into madness. Major flaw that we didn't touch on, but I just want to add it in there.
Yeah.
There was no punishment for our villains. They just walk away scot-free. So that's
a big thing for me. Not only was it just, you know, everyone walks away scot-free, we don't get to see where Kristen Wiig goes. We get one shot of her turning away from, like, turning back to her human form, and then that's it.
Yep.
Pedro Pascal hugs his son and walks into the sunset. And then what the biggest writing issue for me was is that seemingly it was up to everyone individually to revert their wish. How do we know everyone just chose to revert their wish? How come everyone remembers? So is it just in the permanent history that in 1984 that just all this chaos happened and everyone just like, oh, okay, that happened. That was a thing.
I guess, yeah.
And is there no, like, everyone remembers? Like, there's no repercussions? Like, it was just like the writing was not up to par.
I agree. I agree with you definitely. I think there's one last thing we have to talk about, and that would be the post-credit scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we get Asteria. That's her name. It's, of course, played by Linda Carter, who's, you know, Diana Prince, Wonder Woman from the movie or the television series? Television series. There we go. Now, I got to ask you, Dom, because you're more the movie, you know, you know more about this than I do.
Yeah.
Is this something that they just threw in so they could get Linda Carter in? Because, of course, she gets the turn and the wink at the camera. You know, I've done this before. Or is this something that's setting up for the next Wonder Woman film, The Amazonians, that we'll get more, you know, back on Themyscira and we'll learn more about Asteria's character?
From what I can tell, Asteria has not been established in the comics, and this is them doing an original character.
Okay.
Which to me is saying we just want Linda Carter in a Wonder Woman film.
Okay.
Maybe there's some parallels you can make. Maybe she's mentioned in one or two comics, but it's nothing substantial.
Right.
Which, you know, is them saying we're going to take maybe a character that's mentioned in passing and make it big.
Right.
I don't know where they're going to go with this. They already said they're going Wonder Woman 3. They confirmed after this movie came out. Patty Jenkins is coming back. Gal Gadot's coming back. We're going to get a Wonder Woman 3. You said it's the Amazonians.
Yeah.
Where can they go with Hysteria? I don't know. After this one, to me, it seems like they're going to go too cheesy.
Well, I mean, this very well could have been just a cameo to play at the nostalgia of an older audience who remembers Patty Jenkins as Wonder Woman. I mean, my dad saw, Linda Carter, Patty Jenkins, of course, the director of this film. Yeah, my dad, that was the most, my dad and I watched this film together, and that was the most he got excited for this entire film, was seeing Linda Carter, because that's who he remembers as Wonder Woman.
Right. Yeah, and Linda Carter wasn't Supergirl, and Linda Carter played the president of the United States in Supergirl, and she actually did a good job in that role. A lot of great material for her in the Supergirl CW show. And this one, it just seems like they're just trying to add her in. I don't know where they could go. Like I said, not really an established character in the comics as far as I could tell.
Got it.
You confirm that, but
well, we've seen some interesting, original stories. I mean, Joker is the one that comes to mind. Of course, a completely original take on the backstory of the Joker. So maybe we do get something new and original in this DC extended universe. Of course, Joker, if I'm not mistaken, not part of DC.
Right, not really connected.
But maybe they'll take a jump on this, take a gamble on it, and we'll love it. So we're not by any means going to stop watching these films, especially now that they're coming to HBO Max.
Right.
Although hopefully, as more films come out, the pandemic slows down a little bit and we can start being comfortable with going to see it in the theaters again.
Absolutely. And let me just say something, guys. For a DCEU film, a female-led DCEU, we don't have that many female-led films. Guys, go watch Birds of Prey. That's a female-led film that hit it out of the park. That's like a 9 out of 10 for me. I thought that was an amazing movie.
Yeah, pun intended there with the Harley Quinn hammer, hit it out of the park.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think they know how to make a great female-led superhero film, even more so than the MCU at some points. I thought Birds of Prey was better than Captain Marvel in many ways.
I agree, yeah.
So they know it's not like they don't know how to do it. I hope they can figure out how to make a better script next time. We've droned on too long, guys. On the channel, you can find Soul. We just did a review for that one, as well as this video. We're going to drop our top 5 films of 2020, as well as Safety. We're going to drop in, I think, January 2021, as well as a special anniversary review that we don't want to give away the film, but it's the anniversary of this film we're going to be reviewing soon before the end of 2020. Anything else, Ryan?
No, nothing from me. You can find us, though, on social media. You can find Dom on Instagram and Twitter at Dom Gonzalez, DOMGONZALES 48. You can find me on Instagram at RB_D_SID, and on Twitter at RB with the call. Feel free to give us a follow. Also to message us any questions or any reviews you'd like to see us do, or your thoughts on Wonder Woman 1984. Of course, you can always like, comment, subscribe here on YouTube, or those of you listening on our podcast, be sure to give us a 5-star review, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Top of the List, guys.